Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for October 2022's Stampin' Class by Mail. I'm Gina Wieselman of MySweetPaper.com, and I'm excited for you to make your cards using the Gingham Cottage suite by Stampin' Up. I've teamed up with Brenda Cardinal, another Stampin' Up demonstrator, to offer these monthly classes by mail. This month, Brenda is showing you the designs, and next month it'll be my turn. Make sure to watch to the end of this video for a sneak peek of the card designs, and also click subscribe on this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Have fun making your cards, and here's Brenda.
Thanks, Gina. Hi everyone, I'm Brenda Cardinal of stampintulip.stampinup.net, and I'm excited to show you how to stamp and assemble your cards using the Gingham Cottage suite. This suite can be found in Stampin' Up's July to December 2022 mini catalog. If you ordered a class kit by mail from either Gina or me, you already have your cardstock cut and ready to go. You have all your embellishments and envelopes. Just pull out the stamp set, ink pads, and a few additional items shown here to stamp and assemble your cards. Please reach out to Gina or me if you need any stamping supplies, would like to learn more about becoming a Stampin' Up demonstrator, or how to host a Stampin' Up event. Let's get started with our first card. Our first card is our Grateful Wreath card. If you order a Stampin' Class by Mail kit from either Gina or me, all your parts and pieces, including those that have been die cut, were shipped directly to your home. If not, here are the things you'll need to complete your cards as designed. Pause the video here to prep everything, and then come back when you're ready. We'll start by doing our stamping. Our first ink color is Crumb Cake. We're going to stamp our wreath, the one that looks like a series of branches that have been intertwined. We're going to stamp that on our square Very Vanilla cardstock. Next, we'll stamp our little leaves. You'll notice on our wreath we have 4 different colors of leaves in our wreath. When stamping one image with multiple colors of ink, it's always wise to start with your lightest. That way, if you don't get it completely clean when you switch to the next color, it doesn't show. We'll start with our lightest color of ink, so saffron. So for our wreath, we're going to stamp 3 images in the same ink color. So I'm going to kind of divide my wreath in thirds and stamp one set of leaves in each of those quadrants. Next, I'm going to stamp some leaves on the layer that'll be on the inside of our card. I'm just going to stamp some in the corners, just 2 of the corners. And then I'll add some to my envelope. Okay. Then I'll pull in our next color of ink, and that's Calypso Coral. And I'm going to use my Simply Chamois to clean up my stamp. Okay. Now I'll tuck the Calypso Coral leaves into or overlapping the Calypso or the So Saffron leaves. And I'm going to be really careful about where I place my leaf stamp so that I don't get a leaf kind of sticking out oddly away from the wreath itself. And I'll add some Calypso Coral leaf to the layer that's going on the inside of my card. And then I'll add some Calypso Coral leaves to my envelope. And again, I'm overlapping them. I kind of want them to look like they're falling freely into the wind. Our next color is Garden Green. I'm going to clean my stamp here. And then I'm going to tuck my Garden Green leaves into where I stamped my Calypso Coral leaves. I think I like the way my inside layer looks, so I'm going to skip any more leaf stamping on that, and then, but I think I'll stamp some Garden Green leaves on my envelope. Okay, then I'll bring in our last ink color, which is Cherry Cobbler. And I'm going to tuck my Cherry Cobbler leaves in nice and tight and overlapping my Garden Green leaves. Let's skip my inside layer, and I'm going to add some cherry cobbler leaves to my envelope. Okay, and our last bit of stamping is we're going to stamp our grateful greeting in cherry cobbler right in the center of our wreath. And that's all of our stamping. So we'll set all these aside. And now we get to assemble. So we'll bring in our crumb cake card base. And we'll use our bone folder to put a nice crease on that. And we'll use our Stampin' Seal. And we'll add this layer that we stamped with the leaves to the inside of our card. Little trick I do, I spin my card base so I can look at 3 sides, and if I cut everything accurately, if I get the left, right, and top with the same border, whoops, then the 4th side should have the right border as well. Okay, there we go. Then we'll bring our designer series paper in and our cherry cobbler cardstock. This has a soul saffron pattern on this side, and you can decide what you would like best for your card to show. I thought the smaller pattern was more in keeping with the wreath that we stamped. I felt like the bigger, bolder pattern was a little overwhelming for our wreath. And then we'll add this to the front of our card. And I place this about 3/4 of an inch from the fold. Okay. Then we'll bring in our wreath that we stamped and our square of soul saffron and cherry cobbler, and we'll layer this all up. So first, the stamped wreath onto the soul saffron piece. That little bit of peekaboo soul saffron. And then we'll add our soul saffron wreath assembly to our cherry cobbler piece. And then I'll bring in my Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'll use those to attach this to the front of my card. Pull off those release papers. And I'm going to center this same top and bottom, and also the same margin on the left and right side. All right. Then we'll add our silver threaded twine, and we're going to take that and we're going to tie that into a knot. And you want to tie it so it's in the center. We don't want to pull the knot too tight because it gets too bulky. So tighten it up a little bit and then kind of flatten it out. And then we're going to fray the ends of our twine. Okay. And then with our mini glue dots, we'll add our knot to our card. You can decide up above, down below. And the last thing we'll add is our festive pearls. Now, if you ordered a kit from Gina or me, you either got cherry cobbler pearls or silver, or a combination of both. You might have gotten enough cherry cobbler for 2 cards and then 1 for silver, or vice versa. I'm placing my first pearl so that it's in the center of this space. Then I'll place 1 above that and 1 below that. And once I feel like the spacing's right and they're lined up, I'll put a little pressure on them. And then I'll find the center here of this space here, and I'll put one visually above the center line and one below it, trying to keep the spacing that I used up here down here as well. Okay, then I bring back in our envelope. There is our first card. Our next card is our sparkly wreath card. And here are the parts and pieces you'll need for this card. Again, we'll begin by doing our stamping. Our first ink color is Garden Green. And we're going to use our second wreath image from the Cottage Wreath stamp. And you want to place this so that if you look at this, there's the wreath center is not exactly round. So when I stamp it, I want to stamp it so that I have more space running horizontally, because my greeting will fit better inside the wreath. And we're going to stamp the wreath on the inside of our card. So I'm stamping it centered left and right and a little bit towards the top. Okay, I'm going to set that aside for just a second, and then I'm going to show you how you can stamp your envelope if you want. Now you could use the full wreath image if you want, or you can ink up your wreath and just stamp part of it along the edge of your envelope, just to give you a little something on your envelope. Okay. That's all of our stamping in Garden Green. And now we'll stamp our greeting on the inside of our wreath using real red ink. It's nice that this stamp set has all the greetings you'd want for the holiday stamping. All right. Now this stamping on the inside of your card is optional. If you would rather do something else, feel free to do something else on the inside of your card. We're going to set this aside so it dries just a little bit and work on the assembly for the front of our card. So we'll start by doing the Designer Series paper strip on our real red cardstock. And you know, this also has an alternate pattern on the other side that would look nice. So let's try that and see what we think. I'm using my Stampin' Seal for that. All right, we'll attach this to our Very Vanilla layer. I'm going to use my grid paper here to make sure I get this strip centered. What's neat about the grid paper that we sell is it has a regular ruler along the bottom and along the side, but at the top it has what I call a zero ruler. So it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the right, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. So you center it, and then you can center your strip so that you have the same distance from the 0 line on either side. All right, I'm going to check. Looks like I have a little hanging over, so I'm going to trim that with my paper snips. Okay, and then we'll add this whole thing to our Garden Green layer. And we'll center this. All right. Oops, got a little extra adhesive on there. Get that off so it looks pretty. Okay, then we'll bring our card base back in. We'll fold it along the score line. We'll use our bone folder to make sure we have a nice crease on that. And then we'll add this whole assembly to the front of our card. All right, Then we'll build our wreath assembly. We'll start by adding our garden green circle that was cut with our stylish shapes dies. And we're going to attach that using dimensionals. Now, when you add your dimensionals, make sure you have the right side up and you're putting the dimensionals on the back side. And you can tell because the piercing around the circle is more distinct on one side versus the other. And we want to center this. So we have the same borders at the top and bottom and the same borders on the left and right side. Yep, that looks pretty good. All right, and then we will attach our wreath. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up all the leaves. This particular die is really interesting. It cuts the wreath shape, but then rather than cutting the leaves out completely, it leaves like a cuts them partially, right? So that the leaves along the center are still attached to the overall wreath image. And so you can do something like this. Now, when you mail it, it's going to flatten out a little bit, but it'll still pop a little bit when you pull the card out of the envelope. And this is a little putsy. If this is not your thing, you don't have to do this, but I think it adds another fun dimension to your card. All right, then to attach this, we're going to use our multi-purpose liquid glue, and we're just going to add a fine line in between the inside and the outside leaves. And we're going to center that inside our garden green circle. Put a little pressure on it. And then using our mini glue dots, we'll attach our bow. One of our favorite things that people tell us about our kits is we pre-tie the bows for you. All right. Then if we bring our envelope back in, there's our second card. Our last card is our Merry Christmas Fun Fold card. And here are the parts and pieces you'll need for this card. Again, we'll start by doing our stamping, and we'll be using our real red ink again. And we're going to lay our die cut basic gray wreath. The wreath was cut with the wreath dies. And we're going to layer that onto our basic white square that was cut with the stylish shapes dies. We're not going to attach it permanently. We're just going to lay it down for placement. We're going to ink up our Merry Christmas stamp and stamp that in the center of our wreath. And we'll set that aside. I'm going to bring in a piece of scratch paper in our envelope and then our 3 little berry die cuts. Again, these were cut with the wreath dies and our coordinating berry stamp. If you look at this, look at both the die cut and the stamp. The stamp has one larger berry below 2 smaller berries, and the die cut is similar to that. So we're just going to ink up our berry stamp, and we're going to line it up the best we can and stamp it down. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, because nobody's going to look at the berries individually. They're going to look at the overall card. Sometimes for our class, we include the relief cardstock that we cut the image out of, and then we drop the image back in and use our Stamparatus to get perfect alignment. But in this case, I don't really think it's necessary. And then if you want, you can add a few berries to your envelope. Okay, and that's all of our stamping. So this is the fun fold card, and the fold is called a slide and lock card. So let me show you what that means. Our focal point here is our mechanism to keep our card closed. And so when you slide mechanism in on either side, it locks your card closed. So let's start by getting our card base ready. So let's bring in our basic white card base, and we're going to bring both sides in towards the center. We like, if you can make it happen, to leave a little gap between the flaps so they have a space for the mechanism. And it's a little tough to do once those score lines are in place. So if it doesn't work out, that's okay. The card base kind of naturally gives that gap once the mechanism is slid in place. So then we're going to add our designer series paper. The two bigger pieces go on each of the flaps on the front of your card. Using my Stampin' seal to attach that. And you want to center the designer series paper in the center of each flap. Okay, and we'll open up our card and we'll add some adhesive to these little strips. And then we'll add these to the center section of our card base and creating equal borders around this, so top and bottom and score line. This just adds a little interest to the inside of your card, and you can choose to add these or not. If you ordered a classic kit by mail from Gina or I, you did get them. So it's up to you, but just a little something. All right, so set that aside, and then we're going to build our mechanism. So in the kit, you received 2 basic white square pieces and 2 basic gray pieces. The basic white pieces have been scored down the center. So again, we'll use our bone folder and we'll put a crease in there. Okay. And then what we're gonna, I'm gonna visually show you what we're gonna do, and then we'll actually do it. So we wanna add these 2 basic white pieces to 1 basic gray, and then we're gonna add this to the top. Okay, so let's pull that apart. And I think it's easiest if we use multi-purpose liquid glue for this, because it allows you to slide these around a little bit if you need to get everything lined up properly. All right, so now the score line, the fold, goes to the inside. So line that up. Okay, and then we add this one right nice and tight to the one that we just put in. The tighter that you can make these in the center, so the 2 folds, the better. What do I want to say? Then you don't need as big a gap here. Okay, so there we go. And now we'll add multi-purpose liquid glue to this side of the basic white pieces. And then we'll add our second basic gray square. And we're trying to line them up so they line up perfectly. But if they don't, that's okay. We can come back and we can do some trimming. See, I can see a little bit of my basic white sticking out there. So I'm gonna bring my paper snips in and I'm gonna trim that up so I don't see any white. Okay, see a little bit here, trim a little bit of that up. Looks pretty good. Let me look from this side. Oh, a little bit sticking out here. And looks like there's a little bit sticking out here. Oops, right, maybe here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so now we have our mechanism ready to go. So let's slide that in place. And then we'll decorate the top. All right, let's bring our wreath and our stamped square, and we'll attach our wreath by putting a little of our multi-purpose liquid glue around the wreath, and then we'll attach that. Then we'll bring back in our mini glue dots, and we'll attach our die cut bow. And I'm going to put one mini glue dot to the left of the center of the bow, so on this part, and one on this side. The center of the bow is a little too skinny for our glue dots. And I'll add that to the bottom of my wreath. And then I'll bring my berries back in, and I'll add each of these with a mini glue dot as well. So I'm going to put one directly opposite of my bow, the top, and then I'll put one set of berries on the left and one set of berries on the right. Okay. And then we'll attach this to our basic gray piece using our Stampin' Dimensionals. And pull those release papers off. And center that right up. And then bringing our envelope back in. There's our last card design. I have a few more samples to show you using the Gingham Cottage suite. I start out with this one because it's an all-occasion card, and it speaks to the designer series paper in this suite of products. And while the suite is kind of holiday-ish, there's plenty of colors that lend itself to other occasions. But I couldn't resist making a Halloween card because it had a cute spider and the word boo in the set as well. This one is a Dutch fold card, and I like this fold because when you cut this shape out, the wreath fits in there beautifully. But as I was designing this card, I just wasn't sure which way to go. What color card base did I want to use? Which side of the designer series paper did I want to use? Which ribbon did I want to use? Where did I want to put the spider? Where did I want to put the words? So I had to show you both because I think they both turned out cute. And I'd be really curious to see which one you like better. So leave a comment that's associated with this video and let me know what you think. I love this card layout, so I couldn't resist making a fall themed card as well. And this one features the He's All That designer series paper. And it also coordinates really great with our faux suede ribbon. Here's one that's fallish, but can be more of an all occasion card based on the greeting. A design detail for this card is that I stamped those leaves that we used for our first card on each of the designer series paper in the same color ink that the paper was, so it was a tone on tone. And I thought that gave it kind of a fun look. The ribbon that I used for this bow is in the same package as the real red ribbon that we used for our second card. It's a combo pack, so it has real red, garden green, in that same package. Here's another fall card. This one, I popped the top layer up so the greeting kind of sunken into the wreath. And I thought that gave it kind of a nice texture. And there's that faux suede ribbon again. I also wanted to point out for this card is that the two wreath stamps in the cottage wreath stamp set work together. So the branch looking one, which we used independently in our first card, also works with the leaf wreath that we used for our second card. And I think that's a fun look. And I have a non-card project to show you. This is a make and take project that my team made during our September team gathering. And it also shows off more of the dies that come in with that bundle. This comes from a different die set, but I stamped the leaves and the acorn tone on tone and die cut those. Then I stamped that branch wreath, cut that out, and then layered it all up together. I have to show you this treat box because it's pretty neat. We created the belly band to keep the box closed, and then it opens like a pizza box. And then it has that peekaboo window, so if you had treats in there, you would show off the treats. But it's also big enough that you could put a set of cards in there and wrap that up as a gift. All right, I'm going to bring back in our second card that we made, and I had fun playing with that card layout. So I changed it from very vanilla to basic white, went from garden green to basic gray, and I die cut the wreath out of our snowy white velvet sheets versus the glimmer paper. And then just to add a little something to the wreath, I put on some pearls. Again, I like that layout, so I thought, what if I switched it up? And we went a little non-traditional and used polished pink instead of real red. And then I have to admit that I did not come up with this card design myself. I saw it on a pin that I made for our Pinterest board for this class, and somebody had used our timber 3D embossing folder to create a door to hang a wreath on. And I thought, wow, why didn't I think of that? You traditionally hang your wreath on a door, so I had to try it myself. The glimmer paper on this one is out of the same package that we used for our second card. So in that package of glimmer paper, you get white, you get gold, and then you get this evening evergreen. The design detail for this card is that my berries are made using the pearlized Enamel Effects Basics, and I picked out the real red to do that with. It comes with basic white and basic black enamel effects as well, and a little hint on making berries with the enamel effects. I tried it by putting 3 little dots of the effects down and then letting it dry. And what I found out was, because it's liquid, of course, it kind of bled together. So then I decided to put one berry down, let it mostly dry, then add a second berry next to the first one, let it mostly dry, and then add a third berry to the first two to give it more dimension. And so it looked more like 3 separate berries. I almost didn't do that though when I put the single berry down. I kind of like the way that looked too, so you can really play with it. I can see using the basic white to put some snow on your wreath, and I can see the basic black to put on maybe the spider body to give him some great dimension as well. And my last card is a little bit different layout. It's a slimline card, and I have to admit my brain doesn't usually work this way. When I see a wreath, it's a wreath. When I see a bow, it's a bow. But in this case, I thought, well, what if I die cut a wreath and I cut it in half, and then I flipped one half around and laid it right next to the first half? Could I create a garland? And so it worked, and I was just thrilled. So I cut 2 wreaths for this card, cut them in half, and created the garland for my card. I also used our berry stamp to add a little, again, dimension and texture to our designer series paper, just a little more interest. And then the greeting and the die that I used to cut out the greeting is from the Brightest Glow bundle. The Brightest Glow bundle is part of the Lights Aglow suite from the July to December 2022 mini catalog, And this is the suite we'll be using for our November class. And Gina has some beautiful cards designed for us for that class. So stay tuned for a sneak peek of those as well. So I hope these additional samples inspire you to create even more beautiful projects with your Gingham Cottage suite of products by Stampin' Up! Thanks for participating in this month's Stampin' Class by Mail. And now here's Gina with a few more things for you.
Thanks for demonstrating how to make those beautiful cards, Brenda. Make sure to follow the link in the video description to access the special Pinterest board that Brenda and I have curated to show you even more ways to use your supplies. Next month, it's my turn to design and share the cards with you, and I'm excited to share a sneak peek of our 3 card designs, which use the Lights Aglow suite from Stampin' Up's July to December 2022 mini catalog. If you order a class by mail kit, you'll get the paper, envelopes, embellishments, and most of the supplies you need shipped right to your door. You'll just need to provide the stamp set, ink pads, and a few other items shown here. The registration deadline to guarantee your supplies for the class is November 5th, 2022. Check your email from either Brenda or me for more details about how to sign up, as well as special bonus opportunities. If you're not already on one of our email lists, please reach out to us, and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you see all of our upcoming videos. We love to hear your feedback, so go ahead and leave a comment on this video and let us know which of these designs was your favorite. Thanks for participating, and until next month, happy stamping.